Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Ill Factor from beatacademy.com. And for the whole month of July, I'm doing a sweet deal on my flagship vocal production course, Breakthrough Vocals. This course covers every aspect of recording, mixing, and producing great sounding professional vocals with the tools you already have on hand. So if you want to check this course out at a special discounted price, visit beatacademy.com/vocals for more details. And one of the main things I walk through in this course is how do you go about producing vocals for specific genres, whether it's EDM, trap, R&B, hip hop, or rock vocals. And so in this video, I'm actually going to be sharing with you a snippet from the course that covers how I go about producing and creating some nice grit and crafting some vocals that fit great for a rock, Foo Fighters, Green Day type of genre of music that you might be working on. Even if you're not producing rock music, you definitely want to stay tuned to what I'm going to be sharing with this video, as it can be very helpful when crafting vocals that you're looking for in your music. All right, welcome back to the vocal production course. In this part of the course, we're taking a look at some of today's top artists and just referencing their vocal sound and a couple things from that we can use in our projects. So in this, I want to focus on some rock vocals and none other than Foo Fighters. Now, Dave Grohl I've been a big fan of, and has a unique tone to his vocals. And a lot of this is going to be focusing on getting that grit and just all around excitement through the vocals. So let's take a listen to The Pretender, which will be our reference, and then we'll go into a session that I've got and see how we can apply that to it.
Send in your skeletons, sing as their bones come marching in.
So we've got some of this doubled lead action going on. Not very bright on the vocal side of things, but very edgy and definitely going to be applying some saturation. So let's head over to my session here. So this is a song that I produced and I released myself. This is called Champion Sound. And I'm going to play the vocal without the way it is, fully done, and the way it was sent to mastering.
Started from the bottom, just to climb to the top. Struggles, yeah, I got 'em, but I'm never gonna stop. I'm pushing till I'm broken, gonna leave it on the field. Dreams unspoken, it's time to make them real.
So let's walk through some of the things happening here in this vocal. Now, yeah, the thing that's very noticeable is the distorted edginess of that vocal. So that's all due to the overdrive. But there's a couple things that we're hearing on the Foo Fighter reference that I want to go over too that aren't necessarily being utilized here, but that you can use when trying to capture that same sound. And that is just doubling the actual vocal, but not panning it as we normally would on the left and right, but having another lead doubled and just having it sit there in the middle as well. So I went ahead and doubled the lead part here. So I'm going to take the distortion off.
Started from the bottom.
And I'm going to actually bypass the send effects. We're going to get to these later. And just have the vocal just dry with some of the already effect processing on there.
Started from the bottom.
And now what we're going to do is re-record that same vocal line and double it and have that right there in the middle, the same volume as the lead.
Started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
So you can see having that double there automatically kind of puts it in that place where we're getting a lot of that doubled chorusy type of vibe that we hear so much on a lot of the Foo Fighter records and a lot of other rock records too. It's about getting the edge, getting that vocal to just really add some saturation, some punch to it. And so doubling the lead could be a real big help to that. What we just got to do is just balance the volume of the double against the normal one here.
Started from the bottom.
So we have no processing on the double, and we have all the processing happening here. So I'm just going to copy everything that we've done, which I'll break down and explain in a little bit, right over here to this double.
Started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
So what we're trying to do is just blend it, like bring it down a little bit, so it's not so upfront, but yet supports. So here is without the double.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
And now this is with the double.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
And so it does add that double type of vibe that you would hear on some of these records. But now let's go ahead and break down a little bit of what's happening just on the processing side of things. So with the lead, we're going to do some tuning because sometimes I just sound like a dying giraffe. So I've got the tuning on there to kind of help with any intonation. And then I am running it first through an 1176 compressor. Now I'm doing this because I recorded this before moving into a new studio where I would normally track through an 1176 hardware piece of gear, just a little bit of compression before going in, but I'm using the UAD 1176. I'm treating this compressor more as somewhat as to control peaks, okay? So that is really just to handle any of the crazy peaks. It's not just to do all my overall compression.
I started from the bottom.
So really quick attack, really quick release here.
I started from the bottom.
All right, and then just some EQing here. So we're not trying to boost a lot of the highs, where we're trying to get really bright or brittle on there, and just leaving some of the low end and boosting the body of this of the vocal here. So not trying to get really brittle or the present side of things, but just creating a little bump in the body there to give some weight to the vocal.
I started from.
This is without the compression and the EQ. So let me just take all the rest of these off first.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
Let's go ahead and put the EQ and compression.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
Okay, and now let's go ahead and add another layer of compression. And this is, like I said, this is the first 1176 is to really control the peaks, and this is now just the LA2A is to control the overall difference between, one word and the next. So this is overall dynamic control.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
Another EQ to always just kind of say after everything's been bumped up, things tend to change a little bit. So this is just now give more bottom and a little less of the brittleness that's coming through.
I started from the bottom, just to climb.
And then the de-esser is really going to help tame a lot of those highs.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top. Struggles, yeah, I got 'em.
And now the magic sauce is really coming from this overdrive. Now this is really just to add to the texture and the context of the overall of the track, of the music. So the overdrive really helps put this in its character.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
Now one thing to consider, overdrive is really going to have the vocals sit right out, jump right out in the mix. So you have to control it a little bit. And there's some automation going on with the drive. I think particularly there's some moments where the drive is less and then I boost it up. So just in particular parts of the song, I wanted the drive to just get cranked a little bit more. But the reason why I like this overdrive, it has a filter in it so I can focus on only overdriving a specific frequency. And that's around the 1K range, and there's a Q there. And then the tone. So as if you had an EQ on this overdrive, I'm not making the overdrive bright because I've got a little bit of brightness already happening from the EQ that I boosted, some being taken away from the de-esser, but now I want to just tone this down a little bit.
I started from the bottom,
With a lot of tone,
I started from the bottom.
it just cuts through way too much. So we'll just bring the tone down and then just balancing the dry and wet.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
So a little less of that, but you still have the grit in there, but then you can still make out the characteristics of the vocal itself.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
This is without the overdrive.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
And the overdrive really adds some character. And now I'm adding the chorus directly on here. Now, the reason why we're putting a little bit of chorus directly on this is because this is now part of the sound design of the actual characteristic of the vocal. And so I'm not going to be using this for all the other vocals. This is just pertaining to this specific lead in itself. And it's filling up really nicely. I don't want to, I'm not going to be using any other vocals going through this setup. So let's just put a little bit of chorus to widen up the distortion. This is just to kind of smooth out the overdrive, so the overdrive isn't so harsh.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
And then there's a limiter at the end of all this. Say what? Yeah, so the limiter is just used as a basic ceiling to slam the vocal a little bit and have it just sit in a specific place. Because with overdrive, the vocals can definitely jump out in different moments. So I'm using the limiter to really just handle everything, keep everything under a tight lid.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
And now let's put it in with the rest of the music.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top. Struggles, yeah, I got 'em, but I'm never gonna stop.
Now, if we want to hide or disguise the vocal a little bit, we'll crank a little bit more dry and wet. We'll put more of the overdrive on.
Started from the bottom, just to climb to the top. Struggles, yeah, I got 'em, but I'm never gonna stop.
And when it comes to effects processing here with the vocals, large reverbs and big dimension type space type effects will really have the vocals sink further back in the mix. We want the vocals to be punchy, edgy, and in your face. So think short or, slap delays or really tight room type of effects processing, doubling, even some widening. But a lot of slap back delays are really the tool of the trade with this genre of music. So focusing on here, we have the vocal going to a return track A, which has a delay that's set to a ping pong delay, but we've gone out of the sync mode in here and gone to milliseconds in time. And the trick is to really have it at a very short millisecond, but slightly moving the left signal and the right signal at 2 different times. So here's what it sounds like.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
With a nice short feedback. So the cool thing is if you sync them up, you can get some really cool effects by having a nice slapback delay or just a really short delay onto the vocal.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
And see, you can even see how using some of this can also help widen the vocal a little bit as well.
I started from the bottom.
So what I like to do is sync up both left and right, get it to a place where it feels nice.
I started from the bottom,
and then unlink them and just simply move one a little bit further than the other.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
So that.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top. Struggles, yeah, I got 'em, but I'm never gonna stop.
So that's really the cool effect that we're applying. Just a nice little slapback delay onto the vocal. And then next, we have a doubler here. And that's just going to widen it up even more. And I'm using, again, the Waves doubler here. And so we have the direct off. And then what we're going to do is just choose the basic doubler preset. Actually, I think on this one, I'm using doubler 4 voices. And now let's go ahead and see what that sounds like.
I started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
That really helps just kind of smear that vocal, widen it up a little bit more. And then next, we're heading over to just the regular stock reverb. But the reverb here is just really short decay. And as you can see, I'm not sending a lot of that. I'm not sending a lot of the vocal to the reverb. This is just giving it a little bit of space.
Started from the bottom, just to climb to the top. Struggles, yeah, I got 'em.
So we're not sending a lot of that vocal to that reverb. The one that's carrying a lot of the weight here is really the slap delay and the doubler that are really allowing this to give the characteristics that we're looking for with this vocal.
Started from the bottom, just to climb to the top.
And if we bring in the doubled vocal that we did earlier, we can get an even more edgier tone.
Started from the bottom, just to climb to the top. Struggles, yeah, I got 'em, but I'm never gonna stop.
Just to kind of hide it in there and give some more oomph to the vocal. So from our reference, we can see how doubling the lead vocal could really help bring a lot of that chorusy and beefed up type of effect that we're looking for the lead vocal. And having that double placed in the middle and not necessarily panning it left and right, but just supporting it and tucking it a little bit lower than the lead can really give that extra boost and widening effect. And then we're using some effect processing directly inserted onto our lead vocal, such as overdrive or any type of amp simulation that you might want to experiment with, and then smearing that with just a little bit of chorus to widen it up, and a limiter on there just to kind of actually create a ceiling so that there aren't no really surprises with that overdrive, and the vocals aren't really causing out any spikes or anything like that. And then when it comes to effects and treating the vocals, you want to remember that it's really all about the short stuff, the small room reverbs, the slapback delays. The quicker those effects respond, and doublers and things like that, the quicker they respond to the effect, the more edge and the more excitement it's bringing to that vocal. Now, in this addition, I want to also highlight a specific effect that I often hear on rock records, in particular, one that we can find here used by Green Day in the song American Idiot. Let's take a listen.
Don't wanna be an American idiot. Don't want a nation under the new media. And can you hear the sound of hysteria?
So we've got that nice like phone filtered, almost that radio voice type of thing going on. I just want to walk through a little bit of how to recreate that kind of effect on your projects. So here we're going to take a look at my lead vocal that I've got going on here. And it doesn't have that effect yet, just has the normal processing. We've got some tuning and then just some compression, LA2A, some EQing. So everything is just basically what I would do normally to just get the vocal sitting right. But now we're going to process this vocal to create that same similar type of effect. Let's just listen to it dry.
I don't wanna be the one who does more. I don't wanna be the one who knows the voice. We can no longer be.
All right, so the first way to achieve this is let's go to our audio effects and let's use an EQ for this. We're just simply going to filter out specific frequencies that allow this to feel more radio-like or that telephone type of effect. So let's solo this. Let's open this up a little, and immediately we're going to eliminate a lot of the low end, and we're also going to do the same thing with the high end too. We're going to just focus, usually like a band pass, we're just going to focus on the mid-range here. That's going to give us that effect that we're looking for. So let's go ahead and eliminate this.
Oh, I don't wanna be the one.
So we're going to take away some of the low.
Oh, I don't wanna be the one who does me more.
So just take away some of that, the delay.
Oh, I don't wanna be the one who does me more.
And it starts to get close to that radio, telephone type of thing. We're going to boost a little bit of that frequency right over here.
Oh, I don't wanna be the one who does me more.
And then once we do that, let's go ahead and add a little bit of some distortion. So let's add some overdrive. And for this, we're just going to creep the drawing wet up a little bit.
Oh, I don't wanna be the one who does.
So we might have to lower the drive and definitely lower the tone a little bit here.
Oh, I don't wanna be the one who does me more.
And we can shape the frequency response here of this overdrive in particular.
Oh, I don't wanna be the one who.
Let's try another distortion pedal in case you're working with distortion that doesn't have that specific frequency. Here's a pedal plugin and the same thing.
Oh, I don't wanna be the one.
So it's on overdrive, but let's add distortion.
Oh, I don't wanna be the one.
And what we're going to do is just bring down the dry and wet and lower the output.
Oh, I don't wanna be the one who does me more.
So it's just a hint of this. Now, what we've been doing is we're processing the vocal after the EQ. So let's put the distortion before the EQ.
Oh, I don't wanna be the one.
As you can see, it doesn't become as harsh the more we crank up the dry and wet.
Oh, I don't wanna be the one who does me more.
So this is going to give us a nice smoother effect. We can crank the gain up a little bit and increase a little bit more of the output. So it's important where you do place your plugins. If you're placing it after something, it's going to affect it differently. So have the distortion before this EQ. We can open up the EQ a little bit. And that's going to give us that nice type of effect. Let's increase a little bit of the treble. See what that sounds like in here. And wind it up. I've got some doubler on this effect here on send D. So I'll crank a little bit more of that to wind it up. Simple effect to accomplish, but a really cool impact that it has on the music. So I hope this was helpful and looking forward to seeing you on the next video.